Hey everybody, welcome to Flip Side of Therapy, and I'm so blessed to have one of my best friends here to join me, and I want you to introduce yourself.
I'm Amber Victor.
And she's quite a woman, boy. We've known each other for what, 3-4 years now?
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so on this podcast, we wanted to talk about, how to be more self-aware. And I think that this is probably a topic that's been discussed a lot, but it's really, I've seen you and you've seen me, and we've just watched each other's process unfold, and it's just been beautiful to see us come into our own alignment. I think that's just something really amazing. And so we wanted to kind of maybe break it down. And so I was trying to think about what we could talk about today, and kind of the steps, or what does it mean to become self-aware. And so what if I were to ask you your idea of being self-aware, I mean, I realize usually I find it takes some sort of hit, some sort of something significant has to happen for us to wake up and be like, whoa, I've been continuously following these same patterns of programming, and I'm not my mind. I need to realize that.
Yeah.
And very few people wake up, and I think there's a difference between someone who's self-actualized and someone who's just constantly identified with the mind, and it's just however they feel, they act on it, and it's just that's the monkey mind we talk about.
Yeah, I think my big wake up call was probably a couple years ago, whenever I was in the hospital on Christmas Day because I was having an anxiety attack, but I thought I was dying, and I had Google diagnosed myself with multiple sclerosis, and
right, yeah.
Whatever else fits, whatever Google doctor says. And I had, I was in there, and they were like, "Oh, are you under a lot of stress?" And I'm like, "No." And the doctor said, "Well, just tell me a little bit about your life." And I'm like, "Well, I have 2 kids. I'm married. I have a house. I
can
have
hold
a side business.
Right.
And I have a full-time job, and I'm trying to get this house to run, and I'm just trying to make everything work seamlessly." And she's like, "But you're not under any stress." And I was like,
no.
I think that was the moment that I was like, I'm under more stress than I'm even recognizing.
I'm holding all these balls in the air.
I'm holding it, and nothing's hitting the floor, but I am.
Right. And it's the pressure we put on ourselves. Yeah. And that's that conditioning of I have to be especially when you have kids, I have to be perfect. I have to hit all these marks, and you realize, no, I don't. And when the balls fall, it's usually, it could be a divorce, it could be an illness, it could be a divorce, or I just said that, a divorce. It could be well, okay, but it could be something, with your child happening, but it's, the time to become self-aware isn't going to be when things are just going smooth. It's going to be something.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, I mean, so that's the other thing is I think that was probably my second time, because the first time that I went through this awakening was when I was 26 years old. I was on my way home from carving pumpkins, and I got a phone call that changed my life forever. My dad said, "Your brother's been in an accident." I'm like, "Okay, is he okay?" And he's like, "No, he's gone." And I'll never forget where I was, the specific part of the highway and everything. Jeez. And I, at that moment,
just
the
everything.
world stopped, and I knew, my God. So the bringing myself back from that news, I mean, I was devastated, but then again, holding all the balls in the air, I was trying to be strong for my family. I ended up giving his eulogy and everything at the funeral. And then about probably 3 weeks after, whenever the world had stopped for me, but it was still going for everyone else, I was asking myself, there's more to this there's more to life than this. And so that was the first time, and then I became complacent again and ended up in the hospital on Christmas Day a few years ago. But it's been a journey.
Yeah, and our body's always signaling to us when we're out of alignment, and we just don't hear it. We're like, "No, I'm fine. I'll just keep going. But so much of it, I believe, is conditioned from that caretaker. And I know that we both identify. Look, I'm a therapist. Are you kidding me? I made a profession out of it.
I'm not a professional yet, but I'm a therapist. Most of my friends, anytime there's a problem,
and then you're doing life coaching. But it's so funny. I remember my teacher years ago. I was like, my mom's so codependent and all that stuff. She's like, "Forget your mom. You made a profession out of it." And I was like, "Oh, right." It was I check myself and be like, "Yeah, I made a living out of helping other people." And I was like, but in realizing that it's that we have to understand our conditioning and the mask we wear, and understanding, are we at any given moment, are we the caretaker? Are we the one who, the one that feels like they have to rescue everyone, the one who's got to keep all the balls in the air. And it's like, no. And really that's really our own self wanting to satiate our own anxiety.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's us feeling like our world's out of control, but what we do is we step into someone else's lane and they don't even really ask for permission. That's the great thing about codependency. It's like we think we know what's best for anyone else and we want to fix everything. But then it's like, wait, all I need to do today is find my own alignment and do the next right thing. And when I do, I find that my daughter finds her own alignment. Instead of getting out of mine and trying to figure out hers, if I just keep working on myself, things naturally fall into place and the sand settles.
Right. Well, you don't have control over anything else.
Nothing.
So you have control over your reactions, how you feel, how you process what you feel. Like you are. That's it.
And that's it. And the people that get that, I believe, I don't want to say they're in the 1%. I'm just saying, and that's not you're better than or less than, but it's just you're either controlled by the mind or you're aware at any given moment that my mind is creating these narratives that have been hardwired since childhood to play, because we come into this world and we're told, watch your back, it's not safe. And so we create these masks and I remember when I went to do this work, I had like 10 little gremlins or masks. We call them my representatives, we'll call them.
Right.
My representatives. But I was the placator, the avoider, the caretaker, the victim, the goody two-shoes. Like all of these were constructed because of my childhood, it being kind of really strict. I had to find a way to maneuver around it. And it's not that they were good or bad, but they just weren't a reflection of my true self.
Right.
And that's the thing that, if we really want to do the work, it's like the journey of who am I is like, if you're brave enough to take it, then you're going to have to strip away all of who you thought you were.
Right. And you're going to have to work through trauma because every person that's walking this earth has dealt with some type of trauma that probably stemmed from an age before they even remembered.
Absolutely.
Whether it's, being ignored by your parents or being helicoptered by them.
Absolutely. And it creates that little girl that says like, see me, love me, hear me. And we're reaching outside to fill inside. And so we spend a lifetime being like, well, if I can just get the out girl from my boss, or if I can just get my partner to say that they love me. And it's like, that's like holding on to mist.
Right.
It's like, the idea of relying on someone else to fulfill my needs is the craziest concept, because I don't know on any given day if they're pissed off or if they're upset or if they even know themselves. But boy, that's giving away a lot of power.
Right, and nobody has the capability to do that.
Yeah. And it's not their responsibility.
No, you're giving somebody a job that they don't have the tools to fulfill.
Right. And so it's like, really, it's just,
if you don't have the tools to fulfill your own happiness, expecting somebody else to figure out where the treasure map is to it for you, and you're in a danger zone right there.
And it's like, I just assumed you knew how I just, all these assumptions. I hear couples all the time, they're like, well, you should have just known that that's what I wanted. Really? Woo. I should have known? Well, could you spell it out? No. It's like, well, until you know yourself and know what triggers you, why am I personalizing this? What are those buttons? Then how am I supposed to expect other people to understand me? And at the end of the day, it's nobody's job to understand me. It's my job. Right. Really simple. And I love the journey of Four Agreements and Untethered Soul and Anthony DeMello. All those books we read were just understanding. I came in this world alone and I'm going out alone. And it's great. If people want to join my path, they may for a minute, 5 years, a lifetime, but nobody's obligated to do shit for me.
Right.
Nobody has to treat me a certain way. It is my job. So when we're like, excuse me, I told you that I loved you and I'm not getting the same back. It's like, really? Well, catch yourself, because it's like, maybe they don't know how to show it in the same way. Or maybe they don't want to love you. Are you still going to be okay? Are you going to crumble? Right. And those are really high. This is work that you have to have really done. So, so I came up with a list of some pointers or some ways to maybe help our listeners to start this journey of self-awareness. And one of the things I think is you have to start becoming really curious about yourself.
Yeah.
And not assume to know that you're right about everything.
Right.
I mean, that is the one thing I hear. People are like, no, you don't get me, but you don't get me. It's like, wait, do you get yourself? And we're always imposing our truths onto each other. Mm-hmm. Be curious and assume to know nothing.
Right.
They say the wisest man knows that he knows nothing, and then he's a vessel to be able to be teachable.
Right.
If we're not teachable and we're full up of right knowing, then like lights out. you're done
Well,
for.
everybody's right based on their
Yeah.
own perception.
Yeah.
Like everybody's right.
When I walk outside, the sun only shines on me, and that's
exactly.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. One of the good resources that I used whenever I was starting this process is I found this. I was actually referred this YouTube video of Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yes.
And so I ended up going down the tunnel of meditation and breaking the habit of being yourself. Breaking the habit of being yourself
Yes.
is like you are routined into these groundhog days of your life, and you think the same, you feel the same, you act the same. Therefore, you have the same day.
It says
every
neural
single
pathways
day.
that have been
neural
hardwired.
pathways.
Hardwired.
Yeah. And so in order to break some of that, I think that you really have, in order to get to know yourself, you do have to break some of this stuff and, don't take the same road to work every day. Don't allow the same traffic jam to upset you on your way. And I mean, once you start just acknowledging some of that stuff too, oh man.
And it's and also you find a lightness in not taking yourself so serious. And when you do that, it becomes play. And I can catch myself being like super serious and serious. And then my higher self comes in and is like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, nothing, just wanting this car to move in front of me. Or like, when I hear clients say like, I get road rage because this person cut me off, I'm like, they didn't even know you were there. Okay?
No.
They didn't even know you were there. So, and I'm pretty sure you've cut people off too. So that's when compassion starts to open up, and we can start to see we are all one consciousness. We are all the same people. We're mirrors for each other, reflecting back. I believe that we're all one stream of consciousness having spiritual experience in physical body. Everyone's putting such emphasis on what this body looks like. This is the avatar, the wetsuit.
Right.
But what it is it's encompassing the soul, the spirit,
Yeah.
What I loved about you is I love that you're such a follower of Joe Dispenza. I love his teachings. And, I mean, his meditations, they get out there. They're a little wild. It's like, now imagine the space around.
I have the space
right.
under control.
And he's
about that.
phenomenal. And I know you've done some of his retreats.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember you telling me one time you did one of his retreats, and you were having like just the physical health, unbelievable. Explain a little bit about some of his retreats are intense.
So the retreats are awesome. So I went and you can't really see them, but I had like some some of them aren't there anymore, but I had like some pretty dark sunspots on my face. And I went and like 3 weeks prior to going to this event, I go to the dermatologist. I'm like, do you have a cream I could put on? He's like, no, we're going to have to laser them off, but they'll probably come back because it's sun. I'm like, okay, whatever. I got them after pregnancy. I'm like, forget it. I'll just deal with them. So I go to this retreat, completely forget about the sunspots on my face. And we're there, we're meditating. He had us meet early in the morning in order to like start a meditation. We sit down at 4 a.m. and it was like 20 minutes later, and we're all like coming back to the present moment, and we're like, oh, what are we going to do at 5 o'clock in the morning? But we all looked at our watches, it was 8:30. We had been meditating for 4 hours. And so I went back to my room to take a shower, and I get out of the shower, I get like the hotel towel, and I like wipe my face, and I feel like some rawness in my face.
The ability for us to know that our minds are powerful and that we can control, and all our body and mind are connected.
Yeah.
And when we change a thought and we start to, new cells are born all the time. And and new DNA is being programmed. So when we say those positive affirmations, when we give ourselves those accolades or then we are reprogramming our body. And it's changing. It's unbelievable. But I really, you really take it. I love your dedication to his practices.
I mean, the meditations have been life-changing because it gives your autonomic nervous system that time to like shut down and repair and heal whatever needs to be. I feel better than ever.
Oh, that's
I'm
wonderful.
getting ready to be really old, but
oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Age is just a number, right? Everyone, I hear everyone's like, oh, I'm getting older. I'm like, I don't have a fear about getting older. I do. I feel like there's a wisdom that comes with us getting older.
Oh yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
just like I'm settling into it. Everyone's like, oh, got to go get Botox and stuff, and it's like, it's just like I don't know. I'm feeling comfortable in my skin.
Yeah,
it's this great feeling. Another thing about when we're working on self-awareness is being open to feedback, because we're so resistant and we're so hesitant when anybody wants to give us some feedback. It's like, well, if I don't like what I'm hearing, I instantly reject it. It's like, well, wait a second. If more than one person is telling us the same thing, then maybe there might be some truth. So especially with partners or whatever, it's like maybe you want to look at that, but keep accountability partners around you. That's why I always say find your tribe. I want you to call me out on stuff. I want people around me to say, hey, you're acting like a little squirrely. What's going on with you? I don't want people around me that agree with me all the time. What good is that?
I feel like I've surrounded myself with people who are like,
yeah, bro. I might want to look at that.
I mean, right.
Yeah.
Or I'll say, this is what I'm going to do. Like, you might want a second thought. Is that what the universe is telling you to do? Is that what
that's
your
friend.
inner being is asking? Like, no, it's not. But that's what my tantrum. That's my tantrum self wanting to do that.
Yep. That's our little girl or the little feisty one. We're always, we talk about the shadow work or, the masks we wear. And, Carl Jung talks about, the archetypes and that stuff. And doing that work is so good to understand. I like that word, our representative, because we're always showing each other who we want other people to see,
Right.
Like, I got it together. I'm on the jealous side.
If you will,
Yeah. And so realizing at any given moment, am I flipping into the know-it-all, the caretaker? And these were developed at a young age because out of a sense of survival. Because if we were that 3-year-old innocent little kid, the world would just completely smack us, we couldn't. So we have to develop this. But then as we get older, we realize those masks aren't doing us a disservice anymore. They're hiding us from our true potential. And it's so wonderful to remove them and be like, take me for who I am or not. But if you leave, that's fine. If you stay, that's fine. But you're not required to stay on this path, and I'm on this journey. If you want to ride on it, great. But if not, to each his own,
But some people, they struggle with like facing and unlearning these coping mechanisms that they learned that were ingrained like with their parents. I mean, I think everybody, you have to be able to recognize these coping mechanisms. And I think, not to throw parents under the bus, but
that's okay.
A lot of it is to make sure that you're the quote unquote right person for your parents, that your parents need you to be. And like, as parents, like now we are trying to raise like a different type of generation.
Absolutely. But then that's when we start to not blame our parents, but we see them as great teachers because man, they came from if we can't find grace and compassion for our parents and understand they didn't come from an era where counseling was available or doing this work. I mean,
they were doing the best they could with what they had. Right.
And so we're like, oh, my dad didn't give me enough attention. Remember, well, I guess he was working hard and he was providing enough money for me to go to college, or he was helping me, do these things. We're like, but it didn't come in the form I wanted it to come in. All that stuff. And it's like, get over it. Each person, we're always, I believe as parents too, they're always doing their very best, even if it's shit. It's still, and I can say that about myself as a parent. And sometimes I have to look at my daughter and be like, look, I'm royally messed up, but you know what? That's the best I've got. And that's where I go to 4 agreements. Just do your best. And I'm not going to beat myself up because there's always the opportunity to say, I'm sorry. And kids are so forgiving.
Oh, yeah.
Golly. I don't remember hearing much when I was growing up that my parents said they were sorry. But I'm so glad I didn't because in the not getting it, I know what I want to give to my daughter. So I'm thankful for them. I'm thankful for that because that's the contrast. Because who better than our parents to sharpen the knife on knowing I could go over to my parents' house for 10 minutes and practice patience, keeping my mouth shut, staying in my own lane, not personalizing, and seriously. And then it's a gauge, but thank goodness for them because it's like the rock that you need to sharpen your tool against. I mean, I don't want people to agree with me all the time.
No, but I mean, even as old as we are or young as we are, my parents still, they want to give me advice. My mom, if I have if the sniffle, she's like, are you taking this vitamin and this vitamin and put some onion in the bowl? And my dad's like, oh, are you doing this and this and this for yourself? And I'm just like, just let me be.
And you know what? And then the realization is they're always going to want a mother.
Always.
And we can't. And I remember my teacher being like, what are you going to do with that? If you can't change her, you might as well just love her for who she is.
Yeah.
And that was a tough one because I remember, every morning getting my to-do list, being called and like, this is what you have on the agenda. I'm like, well, I'm an adult. Thank you. But it's like, but also understanding, she came from, my mom came from a childhood where her father's alcoholic. She moved around to different schools, like 4, 5, 6, 7 different schools from middle school to high school. So of course her foundation was rocked. So she liked that sense of control, even though it's a false reality. She wants to keep tabs on everything. And if that's her way of feeling safe, who am I to be like, don't you understand that I'm an adult and you need to back up? That's never worked. I've pleaded with her, I've asked her, but true love accepts people where they're at.
And that's what you were just,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, like, that is such, it doesn't matter if it's your parents,
Yeah.
if it's your partner,
Yeah.
if it's your kids,
Yeah.
if it's family, if it's the other side of the political, you just have to love and accept people for
Yeah.
who they are.
Yeah.
And be unconditional. And if that's not enough, and you know, they're so,
Yeah.
you know,
Then
a better
either-
path, you just wish
Yeah.
them well on their
Either
journey.
move away, if you need to
Yeah.
do more work or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, we're all getting into each other's lanes. But the best advice I got was to stay in my own lane,
Yeah.
mind my own business, and ask myself before I do something: is what I'm about to say, is it necessary? Do I need to say it? Most
Right.
things don't need to be said.
Right. Even if it's a response, even
Yeah.
if you're being
Yeah.
asked a question, if the question isn't relevant to, you know,
Yeah.
this does not
Yeah.
deserve
Right.
a response.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so I like that one. So, and also we start to question our values. And I remember Sadhguru, he made that comment, like, who you think you are is who other people have told you are your whole life. And I remember hearing that.
Ugh.
And I was like, ugh. And it was one of those good, it was like, I didn't like hearing it, but I needed to hear it.
Right.
And it made me question. I was like, that is so true. I've been told, you know, you'll be good at this if you do this, or, you know, be a good girl and do that, or, you know, you'll only make it to the top, you know, or sit, you know, be this way. And I was accumulation of what other people
Yeah.
told me I was. And how could we not be? Because the kid enters the world and we're reliant on these things called parents. And, you know, but it's about peeling that away. And I think the best way to get to knowing who you are is by questioning who I thought I was and peeling away, going the other way, who I thought I was, and then going that way. I'm not the victim. I'm not. And I think the last mask that left, I was the righteous victim. I was like, I'm owed an apology. I'm going to get it. Oh, that's not going to take you very far. Let me tell you
no.
something. Yeah, go out there and you know what? The other person's going to say, no, you owe me an apology. It's like, well, wait a second. If we both feel that way, it's like nobody owes us. It's an expectation I had that wasn't met. That's all it is. When I'm vexed or angry at someone else, it's because they're not doing what I think they should do.
Right.
You know?
Right. Don't we have so many opinions about what other people
Oh, yeah.
should be doing?
Oh.
And they have them of us too.
Yeah.
I think I started this I can't really relate to the like feeling deserving of an apology. Like I think a lot of the stuff that I struggled with was kind of like I think it was unworthiness.
Yeah.
Like I had some unworthiness stuff like, oh, you know, this is the life I am living, but am I really worthy
Right.
of that? Am I worthy? Right. So like that's the
I think my fighter came out when it was just being told as a young kid, like, no, you shouldn't be mad or you shouldn't feel angry or whatever. And it was that one that's like, no, I want to own my feelings. Like I have something to say, and being kind of hushed was that like, you know, I'm owed, like they need to know what they did. And I remember my teacher being like, no, they don't. Like even like they know, no, your parents' job was to bring you into this world. They were the portal. And once they did that, their job was done. And I was like, really?
Right.
And did you know in the state of Florida, all a parent's required to do is to provide shelter, clothing, food. And I was like, oh, we're getting really, yeah. So everything else is just extra. And I was like, what about like the nurturing, the hugs, the you know? And you realize we're all broken. We are, but we aren't. But we're parenting. But you have to understand in our brokenness that like there's beauty in that too. That's the teacher coming in. If it weren't, I mean, who wants the perfect parents? It's like in my parents' inability.
What is the perfect
Yeah,
parent?
right.
Can you answer that?
No,
I don't know.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's
I
such
wouldn't want to
thing.
be. But in
No.
the absence of is where we kick back to self-love. And us dipping into other people's pool, like my dad should love me more, whatever. Well, guess what? He's dipping into someone else's, or my partner's dipping into someone else's. It's not about that, but go ahead and keep trying to dip into someone else's pool and strive, because the well was always in you.
Right.
And that's where self-love comes. And today I can firmly say, I really, really love who I am.
Oh yeah, me too.
I just do, and I'm goofy
Me too.
and silly again.
And I know myself
Yeah.
better than I've ever known myself.
Yeah.
Like I can recognize, like, I think that you're reacting, and that's coming from a space of hurt,
Yep.
and it makes you angry when somebody
Yep.
says something or does. But you don't have to defend it.
Exactly.
Like, you know,
Because
I think-
you see that people are just usually
Yeah.
transferring their own stuff, and they're not even aware of it. You know, what's wrong with you is that I think you should. And it's like, okay, that's what they think. But are you going to drink the poison or not?
Or
you know?
you're so fake.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not fake.
Yeah.
I'm authentic.
Yeah, authentic.
And
But if you
you
think
know,
I am, that's fine.
right, you can have
Yeah,
that.
I'm not going to sit there and debate it.
No.
Oh, I'm going to debate with someone
No.
if I'm. Oh no,
How
I'm
does that
authentic.
end? Right. right. How does that end? All right.
I'm gonna shove down my your throat that I'm authentic, right? Like, come on.
What would you do? You know what? You're right.
Right.
I am fake.
Right.
No.
Right. But that's so many.
Like, that's
so
not-
many couples get caught in that dichotomy of being
Yeah.
like, you should be more like this and you should be more like that. And it's like,
Yeah.
why don't we just leave each other alone, do the individual work to find our own alignment, and then not need each other but want each other. That's a higher
Right.
frequency.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just it's just enjoy knowing that, like, I love the idea that Anthony DeMello talks about. He's like, when you came into this world, you play your own beautiful music. I play my own. When we get together, we play a third beautiful music.
Yeah.
But it's not like when you leave, my music stops.
No.
Yeah, and it's not like you don't fill me up, but that's what we were taught.
I
And
know.
it's like no, it's like if domino, if one falls, I need you to need me to feel needed.
Right.
No,
Right.
it's like no. If we were together, and I was like, I need you to fill my cup more. I don't feel like you're loving me enough. What in the world? You'd be like, well, could you please explain what you need me to do in order to do that? I would have no idea.
Right. Right, and I think that's why the love language was written, because
Yes.
people did not feel loved and they needed
Right.
somebody to show up for them,
Yeah.
which I can understand some of that, but
Yeah.
to expect
Yeah.
somebody to keep your happiness at
Yes.
front of mind is a tough
Yeah.
job.
It's
to
like
do.
that's your job.
Yeah.
I can be
Mhm.
here to hold space and help process it, but it's not my job to make another person happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's when we really go to a higher level of awareness. But yeah, and then also, just being open to feedback and always be curious. I picture myself as always having like a magnifying glass. Like I'm always exploring. Like I like doing shadow work. I like to find those areas where I'm knotted up, or where I'm if I'm finding myself out of alignment, where I'm feeling disgruntled or frustrated. It's usually an expectation I have. It's not
Oh,
being
yeah.
met. Yeah, that's all it is.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's a me problem.
You settle down. You expect somebody to
Right.
behave in a certain way,
Right.
and look, marriage. Can
Right.
we just talk about
Yeah.
this for a second?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to talk about it for a second.
Absolutely.
But like you say these vows and you make these commitments, and you're like, no matter what, I'm
Right.
going to love you till whatever. No matter how bad we treat each other, no matter how
Forever and ever.
and because you get locked into these vows
Right.
that's on a piece of paper, and it's just not. I don't think you don't know how somebody is going to react
Exactly.
to when you go through
Yeah.
miscarriage,
Right.
or when you go through a loss of a family member, or you don't know.
No.
And so to commit yourself to say, not that I'm against marriage,
No.
I support marriage, or whatever you want to do.
I
but
do,
like,
I do and I don't.
Right.
Kind of. I think we're going into a new level of consciousness where we're realizing love it's not just contractual.
Right.
Love is.
It is.
It just
It is.
expands. Love is
Right.
just, you can love multiple. And
Right.
yeah, and I've worked with couples who have open relationships that work super well, but it takes a level of maturity to
Yeah.
realize, like, look, a lot of people are like, I'm stuck with this person for 70 years, and now we're living older.
Right.
Now we're living into our 90s, and it's like,
Right.
I know it's terrifying. But if I always say, if we could do the vows again, it would look something like this. So here we are at the altar, okay, and it would be something like this. It'd be like, look, I don't need you to need me. That's my job to love myself.
Right.
I just want you, and I can promise you today that I enjoy your company immensely, but I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
Isn't that more realistic?
That's more realistic.
Yeah.
I love you all right
Yeah.
today. Let's see how
Yeah,
tomorrow
let's see how
goes.
tomorrow goes,
Right.
and we'll just play it by ear. Because but to say forever and ever till death us
Right.
part, it's like
because life changes people.
yeah,
Life.
it does. It
it
does.
changes people.
It does, and you never know what's going to come up from the subconscious that's going to just jolt you, or and we have these little wall. I use the word. I don't know why I'm on the word gremlins lately, but these
I
little,
know,
these
you
little,
are.
these little like they're a part of us, but they're the ones that are like that inner dialogue. It's like, that person should have been nicer to you, or this person should have not done that, or why did that? It's like, whoa, stop, pause, and how many of us just take a second to just do like 3 deep breaths, calibrate back to center, and be like, hold on, let me collect myself and get grounded. We're just running narratives into the future, awfulizing, catastrophizing, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's just stay in the present moment. And there's just a lot of beauty in that. Yeah,
Well, that's where everything happens.
it is.
That's where everything happens.
Everything.
Everything.
If you're not in the present moment,
Yeah.
boy, you're in alternate universe where nothing.
Well, you're in the past or in the future,
Which don't even
is
exist.
anxiety and stress.
Don't even exist. Yeah, they say the
Yeah.
past is depression, the future is anxiety. And also be open to new challenges. It's like, what can I do today to push a little, to go out into a space of being, like starting this podcast. It's like, I was so terrified of being in front of a camera. And it's like, get over yourself, Sally. You might have something that might bring value to someone else. And I'm like, then you get what is it called? you get what's the fear you get from imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, I don't have anything new to say. I mean, there's tons of people that are way more educated and all this stuff, but it's like, wait a second, we each have a voice, and there's somebody that can relate to something, and it's like just if you do our job once we become a little more self-aware, is pass it along.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's liberating for other people to hear your story. Whenever I speak about the grief that I went through with losing my brother, you would be surprised at how many people would be like, wow, you did it and you made it through it. And then that gives people hope of if she did it, I can do it.
It does.
You know, and then being a soft place for these people to land, it's just...
It is. It's a beautiful job. And I believe I talked to so many, after doing this for 20 years, I talked to so many clients. And it doesn't matter if you're a plumber, if you're a counselor, whatever. I believe the highest calling is everybody wants to change or change this world or affect some. We want we want to be of service. We want to evoke change and help bring change around. We want to connect with people. And that's the thing that's so important. So and keep an open mind, but also what are you doing daily to fill that? Like, look, if I don't listen to my podcast, if I don't have my 10 minutes in the morning to meditate, if I don't do my exercise or whatever, I'm going to quickly fall back into I know what's right, I know what's best, and it goes quickly. So it's like, be vigilant, have self-discipline. We have to.
Yeah, it takes practice.
Yeah, and it's doing the hard things that you don't want to do sometimes.
I mean, if you don't have time to meditate, then just pause.
Pause. Or just as you're driving to work, just don't be in the mind. Just observe what's going on. They even have driving meditations. I was like,
oh wow, I would be afraid to do that.
But they're like, I was like, are you gonna fall asleep? No, but no, I looked one up and it was like, observe the car in front of you. But it's not putting narrative on everything. Just be in the present moment. Yeah. So there's always, mindfulness, breath work, and those kind of things. So
all of that breath work, that's where it's at. Maybe that's the next podcast.
Or maybe ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Maybe things like that.
Maybe that. We're going to Costa Rica. No.
Right. Let's do it. Anybody that wants to come? Just leave a comment. No. But But on a side note, people that know me know that I do believe that talk therapy is wonderful. I've been a therapist, but when I started to introduce psychedelics and stuff, there is advantages to going to deeper levels and understanding yourself. I mean, we all know that trials are coming out now. Psilocybin, helping the veterans who just test that are showing tremendous improvements on PTSD, because what they do, the talk therapy only goes so far, but we know that psilocybin actually changes those neural pathways and create new ones, so there's a lot of advantages to that. Not that I'm a spokesman, I'm just saying.
But some of that deep meditation, if you
oh yeah, you can get to it. You can get to it. Joe Dispenza. I mean, you can get to it.
There's so many. Yeah.
You can get to it in various ways.
To do that,
So, well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I want everybody to leave comments, questions, subscribe, and so it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, you too.
Okay. So take care. All right. Thank you. All right. Take care.